Hello, welcome to another episode of the Benchwarmers. I'm Matt, here with my co-host Ryan.
Hey everyone, welcome to the 15th episode. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Benchwarmers06. Subscribe to our podcast on SoundCloud, Google Play Music, Apple Podcasts, as well as check us out on YouTube at the Benchwarmers06.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing the NBA's newest Hall of Fame inductees and wrapping up the NCAA Tournament.
The Benchwarmers. So let's get into the NBA and the Hall of Fame inductees. And there was a bunch of them, but we're going to talk about the headlining ones, which were Jason Kidd, Steve Nash, Ray Allen, and Grant Hill, and a fellow Philadelphia 76ers and Maurice Cheeks. What are your thoughts on these guys?
I think definitely Kidd, Nash, Ray, and Grant Hill are great players. I feel like Grant Hill specifically, due to the fact that he got injured so much, I don't know if I would call him a Hall of Fame player, just because he had the talent, of course, but because of the fact that injuries cut short like a good portion of his career, I don't think I would give him that Hall of Fame nod. But definitely Kidd, Nash, and Ray, no doubt in my mind that they're Hall of Famers. And Mo Cheeks, he's a Sixer, so I'm not gonna hate on him, but I don't know if he's Hall of Fame status. He was a very good point guard in his time, but I don't know if he was a Hall of Fame point guard. He was very good for a very good team, but he was never the best player on a team. On the Sixers, he had the year that we won the championship in '83. We had Dr. J and Moses Malone, and so it's not like Mo Cheeks was the third best player, but once again, I just don't see him as a Hall of Fame player. And Steve, if I want to just talk about Steve Nash real quick, he was a 2-time MVP, so I feel like he's definitely worthy. But Ryan, did you think that he was deserving of 2 MVPs in his career?
Steve Nash definitely deserved 2 MVPs. They slighted our hometown guy, Allen Iverson, one of those years in that. But not even just that, he was playing good, but he wasn't, I don't think he deserved MVP back-to-back. Like I said, he wasn't, I'm not taking anything away from him. He was a good player, actually a great player. I definitely think he deserves to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, unlike Grant Hill, which I agree with you there. I just don't think that, if we're going to talk about that MVP honors and him earning the 05 and 06, that was definitely not well deserved.
Yeah, what's shocking is Steve Nash has 2 MVPs and Kobe Bryant only has 1. And AI only has 1. I think anyone would agree that AI and Kobe are better players than Steve Nash. But one thing that Steve Nash did do was he was basically his team was the first team to basically incorporate the new age run and gun, shooting so many threes. Obviously, we know Mike D'Antoni was the coach of those Phoenix Suns teams, and his current Houston Rockets team basically does that same thing, just run and gun. So basically, Steve Nash was one of the first players to do that, and I think that's one of the reasons why he is so highly respected, because of the way he played. Obviously, he was a god-awful defender. I don't think anyone would deny that. But because of the fact that he was so productive on offense, both scoring and passing, I guess it kind of didn't matter what he did on defense. One thing that we forget is that Steve Nash and Dirk Nowitzki were teammates at one point on the Mavericks. I'm surprised that team didn't do that well. I know they were in the playoffs, but they really never made any noise and Dirk ended up winning a championship without Steve Nash. So it's one thing that I always think about with, you would think a 2-time MVP in Nash, and Dirk, I believe he also won MVP later. So it's like you would think a team with 2 prolific players would win championships together.
But let's talk about Jason Kidd and his performance as a coach, which we've seen, and well, not anymore a coach. He definitely isn't getting it for that, honest, because he's a terrible coach when it comes to that. I think he needs to get his feet wet a little bit more. But as a player, Kidd was definitely one of the best out there, with assists and steals, and he played a great offensive game. He also shared Rookie of the Year with his fellow inductee, Grant Hill.
No, I mean, I think Jason Kidd is one of my favorite point guards of all time. I know you just mentioned that his assists and steals, but he also rebounded the ball, and he was a very good defender too. I mean, he was one of those guys in that era who would rack up triple doubles. I mean, he literally was a stat sheet filler. So I definitely respected his game, and the fact that he led the New Jersey Nets to back-to-back championship appearances. I mean, you have to respect that. I mean, those Nets teams weren't stacked really, but with the leadership of Jason Kidd, I mean, they definitely, I would say they exceeded expectations. Granted, they got wrecked once they went to the finals because they had to play the Lakers and Spurs, but that's besides the point. Jason Kidd is definitely a great player, and he was definitely a integral part of that Dallas Mavericks team that beat the Miami Heat. He was a key player on that team, and so I definitely think he was worthy, like we mentioned before. And to me, he was one of my favorite point guards growing up to watch.
Oh yeah, definitely. And he was also that I forgot to mention, he was all defense first team 4 times in his career. But to add to his stats of career, where I said he's one of the best in assists and steals, he is actually second in assists and steals to none other than Mr. John Stockton himself. So offensive wise, this guy did a lot for the game. Definitely one of the better point guards out there. Who, as you see by these numbers, I state that he was a pass first point guard, and he was playing great defense to get up in there. So, he was definitely one of those guys you want to role model yourself after, and we both agree that he was well deserving of. So the other guy who we also agree with, a man by the name of Ray Allen, or we would call him Jesus Shuttlesworth. What are your thoughts on him getting inducted on this one?
What can I say about Ray? As a fellow sharpshooter, I looked up to Ray Allen. His shot was pretty. It was smooth. He was clutch. I mean, there's nothing you could say negative about Ray Allen's shooting. I mean, I believe he is the purest shooter I've ever seen. And I would say, if it wasn't for Steph Curry, I would call him the greatest 3-point shooter I have ever seen in my life. But unfortunately, there's Steph. But Ray Allen, he was good in Milwaukee, Seattle, Boston, and he basically saved LeBron James in that finals against the Spurs with that clutch 3-pointer and winning it for Miami, basically. So he was another one of my favorite players to watch as a kid who liked to shoot threes a lot. I definitely watched a lot of Ray Allen tapes growing up. So congratulations to Ray Allen for making it to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, I don't agree with you. He's definitely one of the purest shooters we've seen, and he still is the all-time 3-point shots made. Not that Steph Curry isn't gonna surpass that in the near future, but he is still, his shot, the way he shoots the ball, the way he commanded the game at the end, the way he commanded the ball at the end of the game. You knew who that ball was going to, and it didn't matter how many people were on him. He was going to make that shot. He's definitely one of those guys where, you wanted to learn to shoot the ball. You saw the way he shot the ball, practice it, and you had that shot. You had to mimic his shot, but no one could shoot the way he could. Even if you did, he was great in the championship the Celtics won and that Miami won. And he had an all around great career. Congratulations to him, his teammates, ex-teammates in Boston. I basically Rajon Rondo, have their thoughts about him. But, as a player, can't take anything away from the guy. He was definitely a great player. So on to the guy that we don't really think deserving of the MVP. Who we think isn't deserving of a Hall of Fame is Grant Hill. As a college player, he was definitely the best Duke player that they've had come out, really. His college career was bar none, but his basketball career, like they talked about, it was, even though he played 19 seasons, he was injured a lot of that. So I don't see how he really made it to the Hall of Fame. And nothing against him, he's the first Duke player to actually make it to the Hall of Fame. So congratulations on that part of it, but I don't really see where he stands out to make it, except for the fact that he played 19 years in the NBA, really. I mean, I don't. And again, nothing against Grant Hill. He was a solid player. It's just that he was injured a lot. I don't understand this one.
Did you say that Grant Hill is the best Duke player ever?
He's one of the best Duke players. No, he's one of the best Duke players.
Okay, just making sure. Because
he helped them to 2 NCAA titles. He was the ACC Player of the Year and an All-American. That's his senior year. So, and he was named one of the ESPN's top 50 college players of all time. So, he was no slouch at the college level. He was definitely one of the best players you've seen.
No, I'm not doubting that he was a very good college player. But his teammate was, in my opinion, undoubtedly the best Duke player in Christian Laettner. 4 Final Fours, and he also won those 2 championships. So I would say Christian Laettner is a better Duke player. I'm not counting his NBA. I'm saying pure college. Christian Laettner better than Grant Hill.
Yeah, college-wise, I can't disagree with that fully.
Yeah, I'm not talking NBA. Obviously NBA. That's obvious. Grant Hill is better, but from a collegiate standpoint, no doubt Christian Laettner. Even though I do hate Christian Laettner.
Oh yeah, I'm not saying. I'm just saying, compared to his NBA career, he was definitely one of the best Duke players there. Nothing to take away from Christian Laettner in his college years, but based on talk about Grant Hill and being inducted to the Hall of Fame, I don't agree with it as much as I definitely agree with him being inducted as a college player. Yes, but his NBA statistics just don't stand up to me for that. That's what I'm pointing out. And then you had touched on Maurice Cheeks a little bit. So, the only thing I have to say on this one was that, he's a fellow Sixer, but he was part of that title team. So, at the time when he retired in '93, he was the all-time leader in steals, and he was 5th in assists at that time when he retired. Obviously, that isn't the case anymore. But he wasn't. He didn't have 0 stats. He has a title to his name. He was, a defensive team. He made all defensive team in his career, so he had a little bit more stats than Grant Hill did to make it. So if Grant Hill makes it, I can see why Cheeks made it. Not that I think either of them should be in it, but if they're gonna hold Grant Hill to this statue of, hey, you played 19 years, so we're gonna give it to you, I definitely see why Cheeks would have gotten it. But like you, I don't see why either of these 2 players really made it into the Hall of Fame.
Well, I can't agree with your logic there because of the fact that, yes, Grant Hill isn't worthy because of the fact of his injury status, but Grant Hill, Detroit, was definitely the best player on that team and a very productive player on that team. He was an all-star level player. Mo Cheeks, like I mentioned, he was never the best player on a team, or So that's the kind of reason why I think they're in two different categories. Mochi's very like an excellent role player, whereas Grant Hill definitely is a franchise type player, and and there's no doubt in my mind if he wasn't hurt that he would be a clear cut Hall of Famer. So only because of injuries that I knock him down to that regular player notch, because there's no doubt that if he was healthy that he was the heir apparent to Michael Jordan. He was basically on that trajectory in his Detroit days before all his ankle injuries. So that's why I think you can't really compare the two, Cheeks and Hill. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, they both, in my opinion, are not Hall of Fame.
Well, no,
players.
I mean, I agree with you with the way his stats are. I mean, he was co-rookie of the year with Kidd, so I'm not taking that away from him. But the fact is, his injuries and all that is where I'm saying that, all right, I guess I could see where they're going to compare. You know, he was injured, although, yes, Grant Hill, on paper, is definitely the star of the team and a way better player. You know, in comparison to these two, though, not making it, but I could see why, you know, if one's going to make it, the other makes it, just based off of whatever possible theories they have here. I mean, this is also come from the committee who initiates, you know, a couple different things. So I don't, you know, obviously I'm not going to agree with all the picks here. And, you know, there's other players and 2 WNBA players who made it into the Hall of Fame. So, you know, there's a few people who made it into the Hall of Fame, but we touched on, you know, the top people who made it, who actually were inducted in this year. So, you know, congratulations to everybody who was inducted into the Hall of Fame. Who is going to be inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. And maybe some more deserving people will be inducted next year.
On to the NCAA tournament, where this past couple days have been the final few games, which ended up having Villanova win the championship against Michigan. Ryan, what did you think about not only the championship game, but also the roads for both teams leading up to that final game?
Congratulations to Villanova, by the way, hometown team. But let's go to the Loyola Michigan game. That game was a great game to watch from the beginning. And in the last 5 minutes, Loyola just handed the game to Michigan, really. They just stopped playing. That was definitely one of the better games out of all three of these games this weekend in retrospect. But, you know, I was actually really disappointed in the way that Loyola decided to finish up that game and basically not even want to play.
Yeah, I mean, at the beginning of the game, Loyola looked great. They're hitting shots, they're playing great defense. But yeah, like you mentioned, at the end of the game, they fell apart. Or either that or Michigan just turned it up a notch. I'm not sure which actually occurred. But I guess at this point, if you're Loyola, I mean, you were playing with house money, right? Because we didn't expect them to even win the first game. But here they are in the Final Four. So I guess at what point does a clock run out for your luck, I guess? Because, I mean, I think we mentioned it weeks ago that we thought Michigan was definitely a very good team. And we thought they could get on a run. So I guess we shouldn't be surprised. But it's just the fact that Loyola looked so good for the majority of that game and then just fell apart is what surprises us.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a combination of one, Michigan definitely turned it up. I'm not disagreeing with you there, but the other thing was, it looked like they either forgot how to play or they just lost everything. They were making stupid passes, stupid plays at the end of the last 5 minutes of that game, and it was sad to see them go out that way because of how well they've played all tournament. But like you said, you know, all things come to an end, so they are among the 11 seeds who cannot get past the Final Four. You know, congratulations to how far they made it in that school. And, you know, it was definitely one of the better games of the 3 games we saw this weekend. The Nova-Kansas game, though, wasn't a game. I mean, from the very beginning, Villanova, in my mind and from what I saw, just handled Kansas pretty much with ease. I mean, Nova handled everyone with ease, but they pretty much just handed Kansas their plane tickets back home because they didn't show up, and Villanova showed up to just shoot lights out that game.
No, I mean, yeah, I can't really blame Kansas for that one. If Villanova doesn't miss their threes, I mean, what can you do? I mean, they were just drilling them all day long. Like, if the opponent hits like 70% of the 3-pointers, well, what are you gonna do? I mean, it's just not realistic to compete with that. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, you just can't compete with it. So, yeah, Kansas, I guess they could have played better, but at the end of the day, I mean, how do you compete with a team that just doesn't miss? I mean, I know Villanova is a very good team, but at the end of the day, Kansas is a very good team too. It's not like they don't have talent; they have top tier talent. I mean, Kansas is known for their legendary status in college basketball. So, but at the end of the day, if Villanova is playing at that clip, I don't know what you can do. Just as a basketball fan, it's like if you're on like that, who's going to stop you? Like, everybody on their team was hitting. It wasn't even one guy. It was literally everybody. Like, everyone was bombing threes and they were hitting. So it was fun to watch as a person that from Philadelphia, and you root for teams in Philadelphia to win. So from that part, I definitely enjoyed it. But as a basketball fan, I kind of felt bad for Kansas because it's like, no matter what they did, like, they were just, Nova was hitting, just nothing you could do.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. It was a tough loss, but Villanova, that whole coming up to that point, were playing a phenomenal offensive game and defensive game, and they continued it into that game too, and in one of the best shooting and I think, at least in my history of watching the NCAA tournament, that's probably the best shooting I've ever seen in a game.
Yeah, definitely from recent memories, definitely one of the most hottest shooting I've seen. It was very impressive. At least that's all I can say. It's very impressive. Now, going to the championship, Ryan, Nova versus Michigan. I mean, going into it, I felt that Villanova was definitely the better team, but I thought because of the fact that Michigan played pretty well for the most part in the most of their games, except for the majority of the Loyola game, but they did turn it up when they needed to. I thought it would just be a little more closer than it ended up being, but Nova just continued to ride that streak and played very well. And their bench player, Dante, I'm not even going to try his last name.
DiVincenzo.
Yeah, he was lights out, scoring 31 points from the bench. I mean, once again, if Nova's lights out, it's just very tough to beat them.
So, going into this game, their best matchup that they could have had and toughest matchup that I thought could have been possible was definitely Michigan. Again, I was rooting for Loyola. Their defense was better all around, but shooting-wise, Michigan and Nova shoot the same way. They rely on the three a lot. So their play style was very similar, and I thought going in, man, this will be a close game. It'll be a great game to watch. But Michigan has had a problem all tournament, not just against Loyola, but against their second round game, which was against I think Houston. No, I think it was Houston, and they won on a game-winning 3. So they've had they had a tough road there. Definitely tougher than Nova, but no one could touch Nova, so it didn't really matter at that point. But I thought, this was going to be a better game. Like I said, they both matched up really well. First half, Michigan was holding lead and was playing really well. And then, like you said, DiVincenzo, man, off the bench, had 18 points in that first half. He was the only person to make a 3 up until the last shot of the first half. He was just playing at a whole new level. And they were down, ended up being up, I think, by 7 points at the end of the first half, if I remember correctly. Like, okay, that they just got on a streak. Now Michigan's going to get on their streak to start the second half. And then DiVincenzo not hits one, but if I remember correctly, it was 2 back-to-back threes. And I'm just like, all right, that's it. Now, like you felt bad for Kansas watching them play. I felt bad for Michigan at this point because I'm like, it's over and they don't even know it. As a fan of basketball, I was hoping for a closer game, come down to the last second shot like the UNC Nova game was a couple years ago. But this was just second half blowout. As a fan rooting for Villanova, like you said in the Kansas game, it was great to see, but it was just utter destruction by Villanova. They came out swinging and just were not missing, and it was all on DiVincenzo's shoulders, and he carried the team to that championship in the end. So, congratulations to Nova and him, but it was just an all out debacle by Villanova against any opponent they had this tournament.
Yeah, definitely. Congratulations to Villanova and Jay Wright, their head coach, who I must say, Ryan, I will have to put Jay Wright on that top echelon of coaches now. He has 2 championships in 3 years. I believe he's one out of the 3 active head coaches who has 2 championships. The other 2 being Coach K and Roy Williams. So that's Duke and Carolina we're talking about. So I gotta say, Jay Wright is on that top tier level with Villanova. So congratulations again, and we'll see if he could do it again.
So on to the hot topic, and keep it in conjunction with our NCAA Villanova win. Let's talk about the women's NCAA tournament and my big hot topic of them coming back not only against UConn, but then against Mississippi State to win the game. Same girl hits both game-winning shots. I am not going to attempt to pronounce her name, but Notre Dame, those girls played their hearts out. Biggest comeback history in WNCAA history in that Mississippi State game. But let's go over this. So Notre Dame loses to UConn earlier in the season. Then in the ACC tournament, as well as the regular season, they lost to Louisville, who then Louisville turns around the tournament and loses to Mississippi State. So Notre Dame first has to go and beat a team that they haven't beaten yet and who hasn't lost all season and who was pretty much, a guaranteed winner in the NCAA Women's Championship, if you're not familiar with anything. But, last year South Carolina beat them and then ended up winning the championship. And Notre Dame basically did the same thing. They came out and realized what they did wrong in the regular season against UConn and played their hearts out and ended up taking the overtime and beating them there. And you beat UConn, you should guarantee yourself a title. And Notre Dame looked sluggish in at the beginning, but, they came back and game-winning 3, so back-to-back game-winning 3s and 2 thrilling games, and congratulations to them on that. It was a tough-fought matchup, and Mississippi State is who beat Louisville to get to the championship game. So odds were stacked against them in both games, and they turned around and decided to play and prove that they deserved that number 1 spot and to get that title this year. And hats off to them and how hard they played, and congratulations there.
Yeah, definitely a huge congratulations to Notre Dame. I mean, they definitely stepped up. But one thing I want to note is I'm not gonna lie. I don't watch girls basketball, but the only time I do tune in is when I get a notification on my phone that says Notre Dame is in a close game in the tournament, and or they're losing by a couple points. I feel like that's the only time I even try to watch, just because when you think UConn girls basketball, you know they're a powerhouse. I mean, they are literally the best. I mean, Gino Auriemma has definitely created a literal bomb squad over there. I mean, I would call them, they're on the level of like the New York Yankees of girls basketball. Like, either you love them or hate them. So when I see the headline that they're in a close game in the NCAA tournament, I tune in. And the fact that they lost on a game winner, a buzzer beater, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty entertaining. And beating a powerhouse like that, and you would think a team like Notre Dame, they'd be like mentally drained by playing a team as legendary as UConn and beating them in a game winner. And the fact that they still had the basically the mental toughness to and the composure to beat Mississippi State in the championship after that is very impressive, because you would think they'd just be drained and take everything out of them when they play the UConn game. So once again, congratulations, and I was very impressed by them and how they played in both games. On to my hot topic for this week, talking about my local baseball team, the Philadelphia Phillies, and their clueless manager, Gabe Kapler. In the first game of the season, they had the starting pitcher Aaron Nola pitch a shutout. He's only pitched 68 pitches, and Kapler thinks it's a good idea to take him out. Mind you, they're up 5-0 and only 68 pitches, like I just said, and you take him out. Now what happens? The bullpen blows it, and the Phillies lose. Okay, you could say, alright, first game, not a big deal, doesn't make much sense, but okay, fine, you can let it go. Third game, he decides to bring someone from the bullpen without having the pitcher warm up, literally just getting a guy cold and putting him in the game. I'm not even sure how that makes any sense. It's not like Gabe Kapler was not a baseball player. He literally played baseball. He played in the major leagues. He's played baseball basically his whole life. How does he not realize that his pitchers in the bullpen were not warmed up? I mean, even in video games, you have to make sure that your pitcher warms up before they come in the game. So I feel like this is like baseball 101. So that's where I'm like, who in the world hired this guy if he literally doesn't know what in the world he's doing? Granted, it's really, really early in the baseball season, but honestly, at this rate, I don't know if he's going to last halfway into the season with the moves or decisions he's making.
He must have come from the same coaching gene that Jason Kidd did in the NBA. None whatsoever. So I don't see him lasting till the end of next week at this point. There's nothing that explains what he did. Like you said, the first game, okay, maybe, but no. After that second one, it's like, dude, what the heck is going on in your head? Like, what are you thinking here that you think any of what you have just decided to put in is okay? Maybe he's secretly rooting for the Atlanta Braves to win a division, so he's going to throw every game possible. I don't know. He must be betting on games the way he's putting, guys in and out. Like I said, if they keep him on for another week, 2 weeks, I'd be shocked. He deserves to be fired. I mean, it's just outlandish the things he's doing. You could literally hire some guy off the street to do a better job. And no, 68 pitches in and we're up 5-0. Probably should keep him in before taking somebody out. Or, I don't know, warm up a pitcher. Just, a couple things and food for thought there. So, I'm with you. I don't know what's going on, but I mean, you're giving him way too much credit if they let him last to halfway through the season. They shouldn't let him last another week if this continues.
Well, that's all we have for this week's episode of the Benchwarmers. Once again, please subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Play Music, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and please follow us on Twitter at Benchwarmers06. And you can also subscribe to us on our new YouTube page. See you guys next week.
The Benchwarmers.